With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. First up is minutes on the public meeting for March 18th. Have a motion,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Continue like the planning board does and read them into the record. We have two non-publics for the same date, March 18th.
Yes, one correction. For our first session. We actually went in at 4:45, not 6:45. And then we convened public session at 6 p.m.
It's 5 o'clock.
Fine.
Yeah, we started right at 5.
For the public.
Non-public.
Non-public.
Non-public started at 5. Did you say 4:45?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then-
no, 5.
And then I think we went back in at 6:45.
Because we couldn't
Yeah,
finish.
6:45, we went back in for
Yeah.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so this was the second one.
Yeah, because then the second one appeared to be corrected. We went in at 7:15 and came back out at 7:30.
Right.
Because we just had to finish up with Ryan on
Right.
the last.
Yeah.
Motion for the two non-public sessions.
Motion to accept as amended.
Second.
In favor?
Right?
Aye. Thanks, Scott. Talking about tax credit and exemption.
I just was gonna give you both these things. There's 3 veterans exemptions requested. We just need to vote and sign those. There, please.
Give the margin.
Are these new or are they
Those
just
are new.
renewables?
Yeah, it might be renewals. You do have to do these in a meeting and all 3 sign.
Ask people to renew as well.
I don't think so.
No, I think those are new.
Yeah.
Okay.
The interesting thing is some of the exemptions are supposed to be annually renewed, so, but we will address those when one of those comes up.
So do you want us to vote on this?
I just make you can make a joint motion to approve those 3 veterans exemptions.
And you made sure that all the paperwork is there. I don't know what we need to collect, so.
I mean, they came from the assessor.
Okay, then I'll.
This
move
is
that
all
we-
from the assessor.
I would move that we approve those.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second item is one abatement. It was for property taxes that were sent to a recently sold property. And the bill went to the old owner. And the new owner then ended up with interest and penalties, and it's a couple $100 of interest and penalties we want to abate because it was just, they wouldn't have been late. Had they received the bill on the time.
There was a bill after purchase, not a.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to accept that.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Then there's just there's 2 solar exemptions. Requested. Which is, I think one is a $15,000 valuation and. The other one is in there.
Fair one out and actually inspected. The building inspector had.
Cemetery commission.
Slow down. We haven't voted on that.
Your rubber stamp.
It's got a dinner reservation at 7.
Gonna hold off on these two solars just to make sure there was a building permit put in for them.
In a different spot though, do I have 2 spots?
Yes, it do.
Well, then I only signed 1 spot on all the rest.
So close.
Well, I have to write the date for Scott too, so speaking.
April 15th, right?
What's that?
These have to be in by April 15th, right? We can vote on them pending the building.
Yeah,
Or we can
you-
get them
it
at the
could
next
be a
meeting, but it'll be
condition,
pretty tight. but-
yeah, conditional approval.
When you were holding that on.
I will, put the date on for you because you didn't do that on most of yours, so.
I had my thumb on it.
Okay, okay, there you go.
So I'll make a motion to approve these two solar exemptions based on, once I check to see if there's building permits pulled. Contingent, yes.
Chet, have you started to receive, oh, so are we voting on this? Okay, I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Have you started to receive the applications for the nonprofits?
The letters have been sent. I think we've gotten a couple,
Okay.
but it's just started and yeah, and
Okay.
there's still some questions that have to be answered, because the one thing that, you know, they're saying, well, we just got abated for this, or we just got this, and it's like, the whole point is to not be abated, we have to get them in so that
Right,
they're
before-
removed, because then the actual taxes are calculated over the right spread of dollars, so whenever you abate, we actually technically lose revenue because it's calculated into the tax bill.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that that's not the case. And as the cemetery commission, this is just a deed for a plot that we have to sell. You want to read this in the record or mine?
You can't,
It's just rude.
I know.
We don't even vote on that, don't do
I did have one nonprofit tell me that they had filled all that paperwork out last year, so they were good. I said, "No." Every year.
Put a pen down.
Yes. I only got one pen, I wonder.
Okay. Is Ann talking about town clerk?
Yep.
Hi, Ann, welcome.
Hi, nice to see you all.
You as well.
Yeah, just trying to figure out where we're at with the whole process. I know we've talked about it for probably almost a year. My deputy's been gone for 3 months and the law states that I shall have one, so I really need to get going on that. And just the workload is the paperwork's just piling up there, so just being able to help, get a little help with that would be great, and train them
Then that,
moving
to
forward.
go with that conversation, do we have the position we're advertising for? is a dual position, which the assistant clerk is part of that.
Yeah.
And we are in the process, we will be done with that, it will be advertised next week, and we think we will be filling it fairly quickly.
We've had applicants or people.
We've had people, we have a lot of
interested?
interest happening,
okay.
and it's just, we
Alright.
just gotta
Because
finish.
I
I
told them I
didn't
needed
think
to wait for the actual, paperwork to go out so they could see what all the
Right.
different, requirements were. And then
So, yeah, I expect that to be out next week for sure.
How does that work if it's a dual position? Because a deputy's appointed by Ann.
Correct, correct.
So
I-
if we, let's just say, playing devil's advocate, that we hire someone that we have performance issues with on the other half of the position, but it's Ann's appointed person, how does that work?
Oh, good call. I don't know.
Well, I mean, well, realistically, what would happen is we would be dealing with that half, like, it's something we had to. To deal with an issue that wasn't. That we were forced to either do written warnings or things like that, we would have to go through the process like with any other employee, they're gonna be a full-time employee. And then, basically. It would be. A decision if we had to get to the point where a termination was required on the town side to effectively split the position. And leave that, the half of the clerk, if Ann is desiring that. The question would be, you would assume if we really have that much of a performance issue. It would be happening everywhere. I mean, I would be surprised if it wasn't, but there are remedies. if
Depends on
Ann
who's
said-
the tougher boss, I guess.
Yeah, well, she's, yeah.
Oh.
You know the answer.
But
Where is the other half? I guess I thought it was a full-time deputy is what we're hiring
No.
for, so, okay.
Basically, there was another. Administrative assistant in town hall that was full-time, and there was also a deputy clerk, but the deputy clerk was only like 7 hours. A week, I think, is that correct?
Mhm.
So that has been moved to 20 hours a week, and we're going to a half-time. Administrative assistant to assist both with finance and the town administrator side.
We never had a full-time.
Yeah, it was, what's her name?
I'm sure.
Sharon?
She was like.
Sharon?
maybe
Sharon
15
was not
20 hours.
full-time?
I don't know how much.
Oh, Sharon was full-time. Okay, well, basically, we filled the positions that were there before, but half of it, she's going to a 20-hour. Deputy clerk and 20 hours of admin assistant.
Just as a side note, I just want you to know that we're probably one of the few towns of our size that has been with one person for years, and so it just. The workload has changed so much in the 20 years that I've been part of the town office, and it's just some trying to be forthcoming and being as readily available to our townspeople as we can, so.
But we also freed up a bunch of time with, some of the, assessing stuff that Ann was doing and duplicating, correct?
Correct. Yeah, no, there's been well, and actually, much of the things we're working on right now, with the IT issues and the programs. Also, once fully up and implemented and Ann is very familiar with it, should alleviate a lot of handwork that we've been doing. With systems that we really don't need to be, so. The hope is we're gonna become a little more automated, and this is kind of a place where we're gonna say, okay, we see these two needs right now. Let's let it play for a little bit, and then we'll figure out where we need to go from there.
I mean, we have to be careful bringing in a second person just because they can't do like any assessing.
Correct, yeah. I mean,
That's the tricky part, so just making sure we know the boundaries
Yeah.
of where we
Well,
can mix and can't
and we're
mix.
gonna be going through a reassessment next year, and, that the admin side is gonna fill in whatever piece they need, whether it's helping Rebel, helping Carrie Ann or
Mhm.
myself.
So you and Ann will interview
That's
together,
correct.
Who's that?
that
You-
you and Ted
you-
will interview together, because you need to have.
Yeah,
And Carrie Ann will also be involved.
Wes,
So where's the money coming from if this wasn't a full-time person and you're working 10 hours and you're working 7 hours and?
no,
You
it
guys
was in the budget. It was in
It's in
the,
the current budget.
Yeah, it was built into this year's budget that was approved. I, for some reason, thought it was all going to Ann.
I was just curious, so. Wanted to make sure you had the money.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got.
Ann would like the budget to go to her and the work to go to someone.
Yeah.
She's,
Double bit.
Yeah, we received the broker's opinion of valuation and methodology for the gravel pit on Route 118 to put it for sale. We would be able to put it for sale for round numbers by May 1st. And basically, without going into the numbers right now, because we would have to discuss any specific contractual things and what we're gonna be asking in non-public. But just to confirm what is the process we want to use to determine who we're going to select for an agent, or, you know, is it an RFQ thing, or is it? Because we're not really selecting an agent, we're selecting a broker, and I think the only broker in town is Doreen, and I can, Granite Southland Associates.
Granite Northland.
Yeah, Granite Northland, we got past that first.
Yeah.
But they, you know, they performed this, and they also were the agent or broker that sold land for the town once before. And it's just a matter of verifying how we're gonna go about that process. And I think we would be going to non-public to discuss that, but we do have a valuation that is right now in excess of what we anticipated, so it's all good news.
Yep.
We're gonna get it for sale. Hopefully, we'll be able to, we're gonna be spending $150,000 to offset taxes. And the balance that's received from the sale gets split between the undesignated fund balance and the community center. So I think both of those are gonna get good funding this year, and you know, hopefully we get that. That'll happen very quickly. There's been a lot of interest shown in this parcel.
Right.
So basically, the hope is to have it all laid out by May 1st.
Since we're on the subject of town property, I know the planning board is just sent us a letter of a list of 8 other properties that they are recommending that the town sells.
Okay.
I've reviewed them because I'm on the planning board, but I don't think the rest of the board has. So.
No,
So
and
we should, yeah,
yeah, and basically, I think I want to go back and look at those
Yeah.
as far as. Because in the example of the gravel pit, the town has about $194,000 invested in that. So we will get more than that back, and then the other 7 properties. I just have to figure out how they were acquired. If
Right.
they were purchased or donated is one method.
Yep.
Then we would be going to the voters to ask for a sale, and if anything that was acquired by tax sale. Well, I mean, by
tax lien.
tax liens, we would then have to then go
Okay,
through the
the
process for
Yeah.
disposing, and those can be done by the select board. And I've also talked to 2 people who've told me of a group that. Basically, they come in and they do the tax sale for you as an auction. I think they keep like 10%. And they do all the paperwork, all the deeding, everything, so. It actually works out pretty well, so we'll have to talk about that possibility if we're gonna move in that direction. But what I'm hoping is by the 15th, I can say, well, these 4 were taken via taxes. This was that, and then we make a determination as to how we want to proceed.
Yeah, I mean, I know 3 or 4 of them are landlocked, not that they're small.
Well, yeah, and I think one of those was taken, I know one specifically because there was a question about it.
Yeah.
They were taken at tax sale, but the only people that you would be able to take them are adjacent parcels, so.
Right.
It might be, we wanna bid for it, if you show interest, then we go from there, and then we have to figure out where we wanna go. But I think the key to this whole issue is as many of these properties as we can, we just gotta get them back in the tax rolls so that they're contributing to the process. That's one of the things that we've done. We have, you know, I think there's like 15 or 18 properties that are owned by the town that are not being used by the town. It's in that neighborhood.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm saying we have 33 properties if you look.
Oh, they don't have our buildings on.
But like this is one of them, this
Oh, okay, yeah,
building,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Those are buildings that are being operated and used by the
understood.
town, so.
We got around 20 that have, that are currently being used by them.
Understood. Yeah, no,
So that's where that is. So we can talk about that further, but I just want to let everybody know we do have information, and we do have to wait the 30-day appeal period before we move forward with actually selling it.
Wes,
I just have a question on the town pit. Why is that non-public? Didn't the town vote to buy it? Shouldn't that be public knowledge?
the value, it
Yeah.
will be, it's just not readily available now, because we have to talk about a contract for who we're gonna talk about this.
Right, and once the contract, once they make a decision, that's announced in public. It's just, you know, like if we had 3 contracts here, you don't talk about them until you select one.
What do you mean by contract, like? the
With a,
person that's
with a
buying
broker,
it?
with a real estate broker.
With a real estate broker. That falls under legal for non-public discussion. And
The
then
negotiation.
until it's a decision, once it's a decision, the announcement's public.
And then you'll find out what it costs and the whole 9 yards.
Well, we're gonna go with, she made recommendations as to what we should be asking, and once that's selected. This is what it's gonna be, this is who's listing it, and this is what it will be listed at.
Right, and you can find out what they charge to list it and all that. That should
What
be
they charge.
all public knowledge.
Everything's public now.
What charge are they going to list it? Does the commission will come out of it?
Right, but that'll be
Yeah.
all,
The
Yeah,
percentage, yeah.
that will be part of the listing, that document, once it's signed, will be. And likely, I would say. That would be announced on the April 15th as to when it's gonna happen and what those numbers are, simply because. We don't have a contract in front of us, we have a proposal.
no, I understand it, I just was wondering
Yeah, no,
about the non-public, I just wanna make sure it's gonna be public.
yeah, absolutely.
So is that going out to bid?
Well, that's part of the conversation.
That's what we're gonna have a conversation on.
On the 15th, we
Yeah.
should be able to announce this is what we
That's
found
why
out.
I'm just thinking if you go out to bid, normally you would know who was bidding on it, so that's why I was just.
Well, if it's going out the bid, it would be, okay, a true bid, like if it was a contract for a building or something.
Right.
It gets published who wants to bid on it, and once the bidders come in, they're announced on bid opening day.
Right.
Where this isn't the same thing.
We're gonna sell on the open market, I think. That's what we'll decide, so.
I think basically, you know, in a general sense, I think based on the level of interest, it may be this is what we're gonna ask, and we wanna have all. Anybody show interest within 30 days or something, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't drag on forever.
Good,
Okay.
Dan? Welcome.
Thank you. So basically I want to do kind of what I did last year. Except I have, do a block party. But this year I can actually have everything on premise. They messed up when they did the liquor license. I can actually have everything right on the green. And I was thinking with the traffic issues we had, you know, not had, but it really slowed the traffic up, that if we just had a block party. I have permission from one person already. And I gotta speak to the other 2 that we could actually shut that little section down. They could park at the restaurant. And at the hardware store, I've gotten permission from them, some of the tenants to park over there. To where we could actually just shut that section down to a detour. And
Section of 118 you're talking
yeah,
about.
the section of 118, so we could actually just detour it, and then they'd just be going around instead of having to stop everybody that wants to turn. At that time, I would actually bring the food, the tents, and possibly a car show we could possibly put right on that road right there. My insurance would carry through for the event. Like it did last year.
Mhm.
But that would be the only difference, would be actually shutting it down, making it into what I think is like a block party. Not asking to charge anything. I'll have food there, obviously. Someone wants to join in, they're welcome as well.
Right,
But I'll have samples. I'll have areas roped off for the liquor commission the way they want it, so it's all done. So anywhere the beer or alcohol is, it'll be tented off, so people are watching the door. I think if we could fit a car show onto the tire part of it, that would be kind of neat to be able to have everything in one spot. I did also get offered to use across the road for a car show as well,
where,
or right at Robin's new property.
at the heart, or the new property?
Or if we didn't have anything going on, possibly carrying the car show across. I just didn't want to spread it out too much, because
Right,
there'll be too many areas of concentration where if we could kind of keep it all in one piece, the music would be going. I'll probably have entertainment from 4 to 10 or 4 to 10:30, whatever.
yeah, I mean, I
It's
know last
decided.
year, I mean, first of all, I think it's a great event, I think it's great for King, and I mean, last year's brought out people that I have not seen together in a long time, so.
Yeah.
But I also think that, you know, last year, I was talking to Ryan and having a 118 right in the middle of it was dangerous, and you know, the police did a great job with the lights and everything else, but it was still
Yep.
a little confusing getting across there, so.
It was, when I brought the lights in, and I can do the same, because it'd still be good to have the lights across the crosswalks.
Yeah.
And, when I looked into it last year, it was a matter of, they said it was town or police chief, whoever feels it can be done safely. It's not a state issue, it's not a road, it's not so much that it's a state highway, it's the fact that, the police feel it can be done safely, or the town feels that it's okay.
And what's the
When
date?
I was
of
looking
that?
into it. August 30th.
That Labor Day weekend?
I wanna say it's just before, I think. I gotta look. Honestly, I gotta put more paperwork together for it, so you know, I just wanted to get it out here.
Yep.
See if there's any, quick objections or anything that would slow me down before I went any further.
Ryan, have you talked with Ryan about the 180
Um,
closure yet?
I called last week, didn't get a hold of him yet, so I'm gonna try again, but we talked about it last year, the three of us. Steven was there with Ryan and we'd kind of thought that it would be a better idea. And I still don't mind buying a police presence for the evening. Even if it's just to keep an eye on the 118, the hardware store side and last year they were great. They brought the ambulance over for me. They brought more officers hung out and so it worked
Well, the
out pretty
only-
well.
The only thing that you're gonna have to have a police presence for somebody is any trucks that come through to go on the common to get out 118.
Turn, yep.
You're gonna have to hold traffic back to make they can make the
Swing.
swing, that's not a problem, but you're gonna have to hold traffic back
Yep.
to be able to make that
Okay.
swing.
And I don't mind that. They were reasonable last year and it's worth just having them there they checked into a couple little things for me, so.
It is
I
Labor
definitely-
Day weekend.
I was just gonna say, it is Labor Day.
The
weekend.
30th is the Thursday.
31st?
Just a Saturday.
No, it's a Saturday.
30th of August is.
August, yeah.
That-
Right here, Leslie, sometimes I zippy my calculator. Calendar 2000 on the air.
Yeah, it's the only date I could book that band.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, he was,
The extra friend.
no, I was
only day I could get it.
Last year.
the 30th of July. It was in August, but it was the 30th.
I'm hoping,
Happens to the best of us.
There's only 12 of them in the year. but-
I have something to add to that.
Yep.
And I think it's a good idea, but there's one thing that you three may have to do. Maybe you did it last year, I don't know, cause I didn't know about it. But I think you guys are gonna have to vote to take the drinking ordinance out that night if he's gonna take and have a outside bar.
Yeah, I don't remember if we did last year or not. I think we,
We have to
We
do
do.
it for Old Home Day.
Yeah.
Right. I just-
yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, no, because he actually served alcohol at his restaurant
Yep.
last year.
Last
So
year it was
on
private,
his
but we
premises. We did, so we didn't
Right,
have to-
but if he's gonna
Yeah,
have
yeah,
it,
right.
Yeah, if he
Yeah,
comes
just to-
outside, we
right.
have to
Right.
address it.
I don't have an issue, I just.
yeah,
don't
no,
want
that makes sense that you'd wanna,
For you
Yeah.
guys with other things. that
Yeah, no, you're
happen.
right. Thank you.
I'm kind of double it this year. I mean, I'm working on getting someone from Barbecue Pit Masters that won the show. I'm hoping he's gonna come up and do a rib demonstration with me, so. We put that on the Pit Master sites, maybe we can double up what we had last year and get some attention to the town at least, and
Yeah.
so just getting you guys thinking about it and.
I remember we
Appreciate
used to
that,
have the
yeah.
parties on Depot Street and they closed Depot Street.
I'm sure.
They got a little out of hand.
Yep, well, we don't need that, that's for
No.
sure.
Is that John?
No, they would close Depot Street on Saturday night, and have a big happy and have a dance.
Wow,
Yeah, and I can fill out the paperwork for where you want me to
okay.
fill it out. But I think the green, I talked to Rebel a little bit and she kind of wanted it at Williams Field because it'd be easier on traffic, but I think it'd be a lot more interesting and fun having a actual
Yeah.
block party where
Yeah.
Yep.
people drive by it, you're in the middle of it, they drive by, people stop last year, like, what's going on? And so
You
it
can
would be
park
more
over
of
there
a
and
attraction.
join
There you go. So, I can get in, if you get more information, you guys, if you guys visit about it and let me know, I'll do whatever I need to do for paperwork.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you guys for your time.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
And have you worked with the Economic Development Committee to help promote it?
I haven't, I gotta.
Yeah.
I'm barely getting to, I didn't even fill out, I was gonna print something off so you guys could read it, I didn't even have time for that.
Yeah, and I can't even remember now what happened to Bill. We voted last week on a bill that would have permitted, I forget what they called it, something like social areas,
Mhm.
which essentially would permit restaurants to serve alcohol in a designated street area, outdoors area.
Yep.
And I can't remember
For city eleven,
We'll have-
for dining.
Yeah, but anyway, but if you're interested, Dan, I'll get you the information. I can't remember whether it passed or not.
Well, I have to still get it permitted.
Oh, yeah, no,
They
this
bring
wouldn't
it
be,
in.
this,
Oh.
this would be, if you're thinking about in the future, whether this
Oh.
is something you might want to, you know, let
Bring up
folks
one.
know that you're, yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
We have a swimming lesson request.
Yes, Valerie Peroka, made a request that she wants to run her Red Cross swim lessons at Cannon Street Lake again.
Yep.
She asked that this be read to you guys. I would like to run my swim lessons program this year for the third season at Cannon Street Beach. I have many former students eager to start again and have recruited a few more over the winter to start lessons here. I've incorporated with Mona's suggestion, a once a week water game for the 5 to 11-year-old children. For beginners, it's water comfort and getting confident. For almost swimmers, it's reinforce and review swim time. And for confident swimmers, it's time to practice their safety skills. This time is for any ability and will run according to the skill level of the participants. And then it lists the cost, which is $30 for one child, $45 for a second child, and that's a 4-week session. My program will run 1.5 days a week, from the day after school gets out to the day before it starts in September. Then it lists the dates and times. I am a former 15-year Red Cross lifeguard. I am a Red Cross certified swim instructor. My insurance will be in effect as of June 1st, 2025, and she does that because she doesn't carry insurance through the winter.
Yeah.
She will be providing insurance certificates and a copy of her license. I've taught over 600 children and adults how to swim. I was told to get a real job many years ago. My passion for kids, teaching and swimming thankfully got this to be my real job. And this is my 19th year running the swim program. So as we did last year, we just made a motion to allow her to run the swim program contingent upon having the insurance certificate and the license is provided at the Cannon Street Beach.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Valerie. I think it's a great program that we offer the sheriffs. Talking about cemetery trustees, and I apologize, I was gonna have some information printed off, I get behind me now, so. We had on a warrant this year to, move cemetery trustees away from, the select board, to, independent, but reestablish the cemetery trustees. I'd like to get at least in the newsletter, looking for interest for a 1, 2, and 3 year, appointment, that we can do as soon as possible. And then get it on the warrant that there'll be a 3 year terms going forward, so.
And
then
technically,
kind of
according
a list
to,
of what the job, duties and responsibilities are of the trustees.
and according to the Warren article and the RSA, the commission becomes effective 90 days after the vote. So I think we're talking about June 11th, so we want to get that information out, get those selected, and then it becomes official at that time.
Okay. So Monica, I'll touch base with you before Friday for the newsletter.
Perfect.
So give you some information.
Who is currently doing the sexton job? Ian?
Yeah. One of our hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so please spread the word because we need people, so
We've had a number of people already show interest,
great,
so I think the email will just maybe bring them back so we can get
Yeah.
names and
Right.
figure out.
so I know somebody was interested, but she moved out of town, so.
Oh.
Since when we first started talking about moving it out of under COVID.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did she?
So anyways, all right, so just want to bring that up and get that rolling, so I don't lose sight of it. Cemetery need a lot of work and we need to focus through, so. Chester, you are up.
Mr. Chester.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The MS 232 that we have to provide to the DRA, which is basically the current financials that were approved by the voters this year. And you have a copy of it on your desk, and we just need to make a motion to authorize that, and I think you've already signed it, we just have to make the approval and get it, and it was uploaded yesterday, which was the deadline to upload the paper.
Before it was approved.
I signed off on it last meeting.
Well, it was all signed off, but you really technically have to do it at a meeting, so.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make a statement related to, the trailers that are on people's properties. We continue to get calls related to what can we do about it? Why can't we move them and things like that. There are no ordinances or we don't have any zoning that allows us to address trailers being on the properties as they are. The only things that are actually enforceable are state rules related to wastewater and water applications. Or, yeah, potable water and having those types of things, and we don't have a method of enforcing that at this time, but the planning commission is working on an ordinance that will be able to affect what's allowed and what's not allowed related to trail,
Yeah, so they're gonna present to the board a motion to, put some regulations under the health officer,
Right.
which we don't have, but we are the health officer. The other thing I want, like I asked you to draft up, some kind of letter as well as to, they need to have an ADU, they need to apply for an ADU permit at some point. Additional dwelling unit, especially where we have multiple units.
Right.
I'm just asking, Chet and I talked, I asked Chet to put together some kind of letter that we can actually deliver to all these sites and ask for, because some of the trailers do have septic, some of them do take care of their septic. Some don't. So, we just have to ask for approval, so.
Right.
And we can do that through the health officer.
Have we had additional, besides the two, have we had additional complaints?
Yes,
We have-
Yes,
yeah,
so there,
On the
my
safety
understanding
side.
is there's somewhere. I think there's about 20, like what you would consider. RV type trailers around town and not all of them are connected, so. Really, the bigger option is going through a health officer, and that's been difficult, but we are working on that.
so, and again, we all know it's a bigger issue that, could backfire. And if we force it and make them move, it's, we may end up being on the hook for it, so,
Right.
so. It's just sort of making it, making those, residents accountable for what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, Phil,
Oh, just a quick question. So how are we removing people before?
we have not, that's why we
People
have.
on Goose Pond have been removed. That first one on the left, there's been, I think, at least 2 people that have been told to leave.
Unless they were breaking some other law, I don't know that, I don't know when did that happen, because I was
I don't
not,
know, it's been a couple of
I
years.
believe that was on their own will.
yeah, I know, well, I don't know, I don't know.
Because I know that. The other thing is to make sure they have a beta proof septic.
Yeah, they're required to, but, or have a way to remove septic, they can have a tank that they have pumped regularly too, they don't have to have.
Well, there's
leach
rules.
fields and.
You can't just do that anyplace. If you can put a septic in, you're not allowed to have it.
So, but most of these, as you know, have holding tanks in.
And they
Right.
can have an
RV.
external, and they can have an external holding
Right.
tank as well that can get pumped.
But
If they're
at what
doing
point, but you can't just live in one and consider it a residence.
Well, see, that's, in the state of New Hampshire, you can,
Yep.
yeah,
But there does say that once you get to a year of it not moving, they then become.
a taxable
Then it's
Taxable property.
and the state, unfortunately, the state of New Hampshire doesn't back any of this up, it falls under DES rules, but DES will not enforce it, so they leave it up to the towns.
It's still accurate though, because, my camper sat in a seasonal camping spot for 7 years and it didn't move and I didn't pay taxes on it.
Well, I've seen
Something
something,
just changed, I think.
yeah, they just did, because I just saw something that
The
people
campground.
that are in some of these seasonal campgrounds are gonna start getting.
That's
charged.
been,
And if they move
that's
it,
been in effect for several years.
Well, they tried to put it in effect when a couple, like 4 campgrounds ago that I was at 15 years ago, it didn't pass. So
Yeah,
if you had a permanent deck, you had to pay. But I've never paid anything for mine.
Because I know,
it was a big-
when I was in Denfield, we got regulation. The state said any structure parked for, in excess of 1 year without moving is taxable property.
was the owner of owner of the campground on the select board in that town that you were in your campground?
No,
I got a question.
Because it really does fall on the select board to decide whether they're gonna enforce that too.
and it's a campground
Yeah,
that's been there
yeah,
like
sure.
50
So-
years, so it's not.
So- I have a question on that, just, because I know this is what I would do. So it's in excess of 1 year, that's all they're allowed to have it sitting there. So if I registered my camper and I towed it down the road and then I put it back, I had moved it. So I'm gonna circumvent the law and I'm gonna win if you take me to court. Cause it's just how the court weighs and we're gonna lose all kinds of money trying to.
That has
pursue
been
this.
done for years, Wes, with mobile homes in general.
Yeah, but a mobile home's a little different.
Yeah, but I do know it used to be that as long as the tires are on the ground and temporary water, temporary surge hookup and temporary electric, as long as it was registered, they couldn't tax it. The
That's,
town of Orford had that issue a number of years ago with some, but this is, they were going after tax dollars from these campgrounds, like out there on Mascoma Lake on 4A, that people put in RVs. And they'd been there for 20+ years and sold them when they got done with them in place, that they were going to become taxable property.
I get that, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that when whoever's doing these ordinances or whatever they're gonna try to do. We just need to make sure they're realistical, that they can't get beat in court and we lose all kinds of money going to court.
So, I mean, if it was an easy subject, an easy thing to do, we would have done it, but we know it's gonna be a challenge to get it, enforce it and everything
And I
else.
think- And I think it's
All we're trying
important,
to do is raise some awareness, let people know that we're aware that they're living there illegally or not in some cases, so.
Right.
So
So,
we've got them being put in,
you know,
no driveway permit, so there's no 911 address. So if there's an emergency happens, as you know, where is it?
unfortunately, well, yeah.
Michael Reese would like to speak. He's on Zoom.
Hey,
Michael,
Michael. Michael,
You're muted.
you want to read them?
Is that
Yeah.
better?
there we go.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to add 2 cents. You know, I'm part of that group that is looking into this. It's very complex. It's a very complex subject. I drove over every single mile of this town, and I would say there are about 50 camper RVs that are currently in the, and I went all the way up to Larry Pond. I went to the outskirts. There's over 50 camper RVs in this town that are living full time. And not that I'm necessarily against that, because again, the state law allows it on your own property, except that you have to have suitable water and sewage. So again, it's very complex, but we are looking into it, and I think the select board is going to have an incredibly difficult deliberation to figure out how to solve this problem, which is currently contributing to a significant blight to this town. But what do we do about that is a different story. So I don't know for what it's worth, but it's a bigger problem that I think most people in this room realize, for what it's worth. And now I'll go on mute. Thank you.
So Mike, by we, you mean the planning board, you're working on it, right? Just for the record.
Yes, on the planning board. Yeah, on the planning board for sure. And at this point, it's just data collection, no recommendations at this point. It's really just a matter of trying to get our arms around the scope of the problem. I will say for everybody in the room, you can go online and you can search living in an RV, and there are websites that advertise New Hampshire as a place to move full-time in an RV or camper because there's no zoning. Lots of towns with no zoning. So again, that's live free or die. But for what it's worth, if we want to get ahead of it, we should. And if we don't want to get ahead of it, that's fine too. But I think everybody needs to understand the reality of the situation for what it's worth. All right. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, your job is gonna get further complicated by the legislature. Because of the recognition of the housing crisis that exists in the state. There is significant money and political effort behind essentially eliminating many of the local regulations. I have testified in a couple of cases that Canaan has a housing crisis too, but it has nothing to do with regulations. We don't have zoning, obviously. In many cases, it's money, simply, pure and simple. The cost of construction, the cost of, of purchasing a home, the cost of renting, et cetera. It's all about money. But there is a strong push to basically, where one ADU is now permitted, they're talking about it allowing 2 ADUs. They're talking about eliminating a lot of zoning laws, taking away the ability of towns to set minimum acreage, minimum lot size. So I just warn you that that's coming.
You've also got your miniature home, which that has turned out in New Hampshire and a lot of these areas to be a flop because the price of those mini homes is twice what these winterized, winter capable camper trailers are. And we know it's become, that's affordable housing for some of these people, but with no driveway permit, no 911 address. Now it becomes a problem if they have a problem to find it.
I think, unfortunately, Scott, I think the rush to the belief that it's regulation and zoning that is creating the entire problem.
Yeah.
Is creating a rush to legislate away some regulations. And I think it's only going to be after we live with that for a while that we realize the consequences of, oh, wait a second, we didn't mean to do that.
See, my point is the driveway permit side of it, that is a basic for every dwelling in the town.
It is now.
And yeah, in most towns, you have to have a listed driveway permit. So you can have a 911 address. So you can have mail delivery or whatever. And this is what I'm seeing around towns, going by some of these places that aren't, they have no driveway permit even. And they're putting 2 or 3 of these units in.
Yeah.
And the town just needs to get a handle on, because if that's what they choose to live in, where we don't have zoning, that's their choice, but they need to have suitable septic, suitable water, and if there are children involved, that's where a lot of the state statute and everything falls under.
For now.
For now.
You think they're gonna remove the water and sewer? Cause that's not a legislative issue, that's a health and safety issue.
And you're absolutely right, and I'm already seeing some legislation that I personally think falls under health and safety, but apparently a majority does not. So, there's an awful lot of stuff out there and they're, New Hampshire's always had a tradition of local control. There's an awful lot of legislation, at least in the House. I don't know what the Senate's doing yet, but at least in the House, that is trampling on local control.
And one of the things that I've seen, and part of it through my own work, there are regulations in place for a failed septic system. Try to find regulation for no septic system.
Yeah.
This is where part of the problem comes in, is they've got it pretty much dialed in. If there's a failed system, you've got X number of days to have it replaced and everything. Or you lose an occupancy permit. But yes, I have yet to be able to find any of this described regulation.
If you don't have one to begin.
If you don't have one to begin with.
Right.
It's kind of like they can't take your driver's license if you never get one.
Tell that to the police.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on that? Okay.
And just two other items, the tax anticipation note, I will be bringing that to the select board on the 15th. There's a
Okay.
plan, we've already sent the information into the bank, we're just waiting for the documents.
Yep.
Do all three of us have to sign it?
At least two do,
Okay, I'm not gonna be here on the 15th.
okay. You will, and you typically, yeah, and we're a little bit more of a rush this year to get that going. We're gonna need it in about the second week of May instead of the 1st of June. While nothing has changed on the expense side realistically, the issue is last year we had 8 open positions, so we had enough cash to get us that extra 3 weeks, that couple $100,000. So realistically, this year, how it's working is what our actual cash situation is. We're just fine with the budget, we're fine with the overall expenses, but our cash, because we don't really have any
Buffer.
undesignated fund balance at all, we're not able to carry these periods of time, so we are working on getting that.
And
finalized.
what about the bond anticipation?
The bond anticipation note, the one thing, and actually I talked to Bob about it today, because we were talking about when we would do the paving for the first part. And I had been thinking about it. Bond anticipation note is good for 12 months. Because of the nature of the project, we will not know what all the bids are, probably till, let's call it December, January, by the time we get the permits and the design
Yeah.
for the
For
whole
Goose Pond.
bigger
Yeah,
part of
Goose
it.
Pond.
So the goal would be, in that case, is to not, you don't wanna get the permanent bond before that, so you know what the real numbers are. You don't wanna have 200, 300,000 too little or too much or whatever. So for that being the case, that means that when we apply next May, we will get a July disbursement. So we can't do the bond anticipation note. We don't want it to become active until July, because we gotta play the 12 months.
Yeah.
So basically what we're looking at is an early July paving for the first section. And then, starting Goose Pond, like, we're having a meeting next Wednesday with the engineer to get started on getting all those permits going and the design work going. But we won't be able to start any work there until the earliest, probably October, just starting some culverts and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But the real work for that will all happen next summer. So we're just working on the cash flow part of it, so that's what I would anticipate. I had a conversation with the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. But basically, they said, well, we would, what their normal process, what they like to see happen is we will actually do an application, fill out the application for next year's bond, for the full bond.
Yeah.
And then they will work with us to get us a bond anticipation note, like they actually put it out to certain banks. They get pricing for it. I'm also talking to Mascoma, I don't know if that's one of the banks they talk to. But they will actually put it out to bid to get the best bond anticipation note. And they need about 5 weeks to process. I told them we wouldn't be able to get it to them until maybe late April, early May to get that work into them. So basically around July, we will be getting our bond pricing and then working on the bond anticipation note. So I would anticipate that all kind of happening in July.
Right.
And the last item, just a FYI, we received a letter, I got a call ahead from the New Hampshire DES telling us that they were sending us the letter of violation for our hazardous waste storage. We still have some things that aren't properly stored and labeled. And I had a long conversation with them and we talked about the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission starting to do our hazardous waste starting in May. And also the fact that we're working with the group that does their collection to come get everything we have today, which would then end this process. So he said this was just the notification, we got the violation letter, and then we just let them know. And he said that was all great, and they were happy with where we were going, so.
Okay.
But just, he said, yeah, working with the Regional Planning Commission is a great idea.
Perfect.
Good.
Do we want to talk about our health insurance notification?
Yeah, not really.
Maybe drop
Well,
off-
no,
Do you
maybe
want
drop off
something?
a chair, actually.
There's
Do you want
nothing fun
something
in that
positive,
conversation.
people?
No.
We should end on a positive.
Yeah.
We have learned that, the state has passed some rules related to how the, health insurance companies have to keep their emergency balance at a certain level. And then they have other requirements, and they also are required now to follow the actuaries' calculation of what they should have in reserves and how their things are expended, and looking at their history as to how much money they need to put aside. In essence, what it has done is we've been notified is that
Effective July first,
effective July first,
our increase on health insurance.
we had planned for a 12% increase, and it's gonna move to 55%. So we're looking at $150,000 or so additional expense, that was not anticipated. We are also, because I had been in conversation a few weeks ago, with, the town manager in Enfield. And they just went through this process of reevaluating their insurance. We were gonna start that process anyway, and our hope is we're gonna try and get him in as quickly as possible in April. So what we're gonna work on is seeing what alternatives we have. We can provide the same benefits that we do today, by switching to a high deductible plan and then offering it back in an HRA where you still have the same out of pocket. There's no change at a significantly lower cost. We just have to get a couple of the companies in to give us some estimates. And we're gonna see if we can offset and prevent this from happening. And at the very least, we're also gonna ask for, well, can we only sign a 6-month contract so it only happens this year? We were trying to still make this change, but we are gonna have to look at alternatives for the health insurance for the town.
So correct me if I'm wrong, there's only really 2 companies out there that we can deal with, right?
No, there's more than that.
Sure, okay.
So for a number of years, Stephen and I were on the budget committee together, and we had asked about health insurance and looking at it to see if there were other plans available. Because although it's a fantastic plan, it's sponsored by the taxpayer. So maybe there's, a middle ground we can meet. And we were always met with great opposition from leadership at the time that we could not know what the benefits were. We couldn't review the plan and we finally formed a committee. We had one meeting and we were shut down. So this has sort of been on, I think, our radar for a very long
And the
time.
first day I heard we were still using an HMO, I almost passed out.
Yeah.
Just the
I mean, we just
methodology is
switched
the
companies,
most
what,
expensive.
2 years ago?
2 years ago, because there was some sort of issue that happened, from what I understand.
Well,
where-
the new company offers a significant savings.
Right, but the type of insurance we have is among the more expensive versions.
Right.
Not even just the coverage or the deductibles, but, there are other plans that we can view, and, hopefully they won't have the same issue that they are having with the escrow that they have to maintain. So we're gonna look at our options, and hopefully we'll be able to mitigate a lot of what is being proposed at this time, but that's what we have as a report. It's only happened in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
One of the plans that I was under, they went to a copay, but they had a bank where you could be reimbursed those copays. The only thing I have seen on the high-end deductible is I looked at the one policy and what the outfit had done in order to save $100,000 in premiums. When you add up, they set up it was essentially a debit card for each employee for that deductible side of it. They had $300,000 out in debit card to save $100,000 in premium.
The reality is, the nice thing about, well, see, it also depends on if you go HSA or HRA. It's HSA, the money's gone. It's like that becomes the employees. If you go HRA, it becomes a bank that basically the town only gets billed for what's used. And it has a maximum cover.
Yeah, but my point being
Yeah, I know.
that, they were looking at a maximum
Right.
cover of $300,000.
Right.
To save 100. So we
Well,
got,
we know, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at it, but we do, it was something I wanted to do this year anyway, because we just, the same reason, just to ask the question, is there something we can look at? but this accelerates the need.
Yeah.
And I would never be in favor of dramatically cutting benefits for the employees. I have for a while wanted to, and I understand we're in like a big period of change and transition, but you know, if we were able to make employees aware of what their benefits were for time off, for insurance, things like that. So this is your salary and this is your actual total package that, because we were always told that we underpay our people and then give them this insurance. And I think in the last few years, we've tried to raise people up to be more in line with what market is paying. So,
Just don't.
No, we have to look at all pieces. The other thing that I wanted to do was, you know, at least for the 3 or 4 bigger departments, is make sure that once we start getting these presentations from these groups, is to have members from each of the departments actually sitting there and listening.
Mhm.
This is not gonna be a top secret event. It's basically we want everybody to participate so that there's less fear and concern that we're just working on taking benefits. That's not the goal. And we just have to make sure that we approach it that way. And that we look at because I believe there are significant savings to be had without damaging benefits at all.
Wes, you had something?
Yeah, 2 things. One. So you were talking about infield. I don't know if Scott knows this or not, but there's like 4 or 5 people that I know out there that are thinking of getting done because of what infield did with their benefits. I'm
Okay.
just saying, whatever you were talking about, whatever company they used, the employees are not happy.
Well, no, and I know that,
Okay,
but there's 2 different things in play there. There's companies that offer these benefits, but it's how much is the town keeping under, where I think they actually reduced or increased the expense side on the department. That's what I understand.
I have no idea. I just know
But
they're
the
not
company-
happy with the insurance.
Right, and the company really doesn't have a lot to do with it.
And-
It's the balance between what is the town paying and what's the employee paying. I
Right.
think that's what modified
And then-
there, which we're not looking to do.
Then the second thing is. I can tell you as, you know, if I was a town employee, probably one of the reasons why I'd work there is because of the benefits. If you start messing with the benefits, and I know you say you're not gonna take them away or whatever, but. If you start making them pay for their health insurance, or you start doing that stuff, the $21, the $22 an hour that the truck drivers make, and the $26 an hour that the equipment operators make. You might as well, you're up into the 30s if you're gonna find people to work, because. That's just reality. That's what those type of people get paid.
Yep.
I mean, I know what she's saying about the benefits. I get it. If you added it up, it would all calculate out the same. I'll almost guarantee it. But when you start, the health insurance stuff is a fine line to some of these people that work for the towns and stuff. I'm just throwing that
I
out.
know, and basically, when you go to the high deductible plan, and let's assume that that's a $5,000 deductible. What most places will do is they'll say, well, we'll reimburse up to 4,000, and then you gotta pay max amount of pocket 1,000. The town can physically pay the whole deductible. Okay, but it actually still is a cheaper insurance plan, as crazy as that sounds.
No,
Just the
no,
way it
because the deductible's cheaper. That's why it's cheaper. I get that.
So it's just a matter of, we can modify the type of plan without modifying the out-of-pocket expense.
Right,
there are other things, you know, for a long time, we would cover the full cost. So if you had a spouse, even if they had health insurance available at their company, the town would pay for it, which means you all pay for it. We would offer, if that person went with their spouse's insurance, we would buy that person out for like $6,000. Do we do that? 5, so we pay them and they go on the other person's insurance. There are other things that we can look at. But I would not be in favor of dramatically cutting someone's benefits, but.
No, that's not the goal. The goal is to look at alternative types of insurance. HMO.
Yeah.
Is you just pay a fixed amount of money, and then you can go here, and here, and you never pay anything. And it's actually the one that was started originally that created all of these other plans that not many carry that type of land.
I mean, let's face it, the cost of living is 5% or whatever in a good year, and I mean, even the increase right now was at 12.5, and they hit us with, 10 times that, so we gotta look at it.
I don't have a problem with looking at it, I'm just saying that.
No, I understand, and
I know-
we've been cognizant of the,
Right, I have no idea what infield did, I couldn't tell you, but I know there's 4 or 5 guys that I know out there.
Yeah.
That are thinking about getting done because of whatever they
Yeah.
did to the out.
some people are never happy with change anyway, so.
Well, the
Well,
one
I do know from ones that I've talked to out there when I've been out, the high deductible side and having that debit card to cover it wasn't the problem. The problem was that payroll deduction on a lot of them tripled or more.
Yeah.
That's the side that it really
Right,
hurt.
and when you're, and that's where I was going with the pay rate.
Yeah.
We are low on our pay rate for the highway department. Even with the insurance, I mean, Lebanon for a truck driver, I think starts at $26 an hour. I think the heavy equipment operators in the 30s. That's at the highway department. We're 26. I mean, that's $4 or $5 an hour low for an equipment operator. You start messing with the. I'm just throwing that out there with the insurance.
It's
stuff.
the atmosphere in Canaan West that they're.
Right. You understand what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that you guys, when you start messing with the insurance, you really look.
And this is a slippery slope.
Mhm.
Every year, every place you go, and this is what's pushed up a lot of these rates. I mean, you can take what the state will tell you for a single person to afford a 1-bedroom apartment has to make a minimum $24 an hour. That's just to get by.
Right.
You also have that problem that, as you know, CDL drivers and equipment operators are a marketable product now. So it's a bidding war out there in a lot of these areas. And
It is.
what we have looked at, we gave some very significant raises this last year. Because we looked at when you add in that benefit package, this is where we have to be to keep their annual salary competitive.
I mean, and, quite frankly, I mean, we're battling the same thing in the police department as well, with, finding qualified people. And a lot of it comes down to leadership in each of the departments. I think we made great strides in both departments with the leadership, and it's helped out and shown stabilization in what we have there.
Right.
We don't wanna upset that apple cart because.
Right. Well, that's
things are-
what I'm trying
From
to
an
say.
employee side, things are working pretty well right now, I think, so. from
Well, I've never
everything I've
heard-
so.
I've never heard any of the employees really squawk about the stuff that goes on in infield. And the 4 that I know, you know them, and I would never, some of them have been there for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they're thinking about changing
Yeah.
jobs because of the health insurance.
Yeah, because of the effect it
Right.
has on their annual salary.
One final item, there's a grantee agreement that the select board needs to sign, just make a motion and sign. It's for the $29,000, it's a $29,900 grant for water. It's an extension of the piece of the sustainability piece. So it's basically, John just said that we got the select board member sign the first page, but you need to initial each page.
Okay.
And Michael Reese would like clarification about confirm the expected schedule for Goose Pond Road.
I can do that.
Go ahead.
So Goose Pond Road, basically, because of the permitting that's required, the adjacent to the water system that's there, we cannot reclaim the road or do any road work until we receive a stormwater permit from the state. We expect that to happen in the September timeframe, late August or September timeframe to actually receive the permit. At that time, because it'll be late in the season, the intent is to start doing some of the minor culvert work as much as we can. We're also gonna have the design done for the larger culverts, the 5 significant culverts that have to pass streams requirements that will be contracted out. And depending on the schedule, for them, they could be anytime early winter or late fall or early spring to be replacing those 5 culverts. And when spring comes around, we would be reclaiming the road. And then starting to replace the rest of the culverts that are the minor culverts. And when all culvert work is done, we will be paving, I would expect sometime late summer next year.
I don't think we actually voted on signing that, are we supposed to?
Yes, well, just because you all signed it, you should vote. On the.
Wanna make a motion now that we signed it?
The original water grant funds for $29,900.
Okay, I will move that we bring that.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a question, is it something to initially pay?
Yes.
I didn't do that.
Work at the bank, come on.
That's true.
Now you see what everybody feels like when they go to the bank to get a loan.
I used to do it too.
Right?
Anything else?
No, I.
I'm just gonna go back to the solar exemptions. The first one I just noticed, it was actually installed in 2015. In 2015, I believe our town administrator was acting as the building inspector, so I doubt we were requiring a permit, so I'm gonna make a motion to approve that one now.
We already moved to approve it contingent on that, so do you want to amend your motion?
I'm still waiting on the other ones. I'll
What's
make
that?
a motion to approve this one because of,
Because it's
What's the
technically-
requirement
It's 10
for a
years old.
permit for that? I've never heard of needing a permit to put solar.
yeah, we're getting building permits for solar for installations for. Yeah.
So we changed the requirement.
So it's just been, I mean, ever since I've been doing it for the last year, we've been collecting building permits for solar installations, so,
Mostly because of electrical.
yeah.
I don't know, if you can do electrical work on your house and you don't have to get a permit.
Well, you're not gonna
if you wanna
install
do
a
high-
solar
high
array
power
on
stuff
your
with
house,
solar
but-
arrays.
There's shut off requirements because in case you have a house catches on fire, there's gonna be a shut off.
Yeah, no,
After the panel.
I've never heard of there being a requirement for solar, so I was just curious.
Can we put out RFP for seasonal pricing for aggregate like we did last spring? Or have you already?
Well, I got one because he just sent us the renewal, but we gotta get the rest of them.
Okay.
I made a motion,
Oh, I'll second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, no one's consideration with that.
Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Dan?
Thank you.
I'll email you that. Quite a bit of wrong. District.
Any other business?
Would you
Bill?
like to see the
hold on.
design and the layout of the website?
Sure, let me just add before we do, Bill,
Oh,
Yeah, I just had
sorry.
a couple,
Couldn't see you back there.
just a couple questions. I can't remember what the status of the transfer station bridge is and the Gator Road Bridge.
Taylor Bridge is gonna be the first one that comes up on the
Correct.
repair.
Potato Road Bridge just got the approval of the last piece of our contract with the engineer. And preliminary design has been already approved, so we're moving into design process. I believe that one was a 26 construct. And if I'm not mistaken, grist mill is 27. And transfer station is either 26 or 27. We just got that one to the state and we're working through that process. So they're all in that same 2-year timeframe.
And then the next question was, who did we lose on the highway department? Or did we lose somebody if we have an ad in the paper looking for help?
We had one position that we went from part-time to full-time. That's why we put the advertisement out. So we're moving, to getting to the full crew that we've had in the past, but we had a part-time person who's just been hauling in this year very spotty. And we had put that in the budget for that to be full-time again.
And Wesley appropriately questioned us when we talked about it in the
Yeah.
meeting. Yeah.
I
He made
told him
sure.
what it was, but he had to ask.
I told you it was a division heading.
It was a full-time position, but the person couldn't work full-time.
Right, it was the
Has
division
anybody-
that he was running, because that's what you guys told me.
I'll let you give that back to Sadie.
Well, because last time you were here, the position is different than what Eddie is.
What's that?
It said the position is an equipment operator / laborer, not a truck driver.
Well, that's but we've been putting that in all the time in case we can get an operator, but we're getting a truck driver. All the applications we're getting are just truck driver, and we're happy with that.
What are you paying?
Huh? $14 an hour.
How much?
14.
14?
Yeah,
You've been
actually,
looking for a
truck
while.
drivers, an early,
I can do better than that.
basically, we're,
Yeah, but
I
you don't
think our
send out
starting's
bills,
been
so
about 22. If we're running like 24, 25 if they have a lot of experience.
Well, the equipment operator.
That's a little higher.
Not for me, I'm just
I'm
asking.
just saying,
if I
that's
find
just, I
somebody.
think we're, basically, if you look at what we're paying right now, 26 has been that person.
I just have a quick question, and I think I know the answer, but we do not have within Canaan any electric powered generators who are currently paying utility property tax, do we?
What do you mean
Like,
by that?
for tax on the poles and all that kind of stuff, and then.
Not the polls, these would be, so when power generation, when the electric system was deregulated back at the beginning of the millennium, they separated power generators from power distributors. So, for example, Liberty is a distributor. They buy power from generators. And there is a move currently to try and currently both distributors like Liberty and generators get taxed under the utility tax,
Sure.
utility property tax.
They should.
Well, I'm not,
You're talking about like places next door. With the solar.
well, I'm
Next
talking
door,
about.
They would be selling, so they would be.
If they are selling power, yes, then currently they would be paying the utility property tax. They are not technically utilities. Because they are creating power and then selling it in a competitive market. So they're like any other manufacturer, making a product and selling it on an open market.
I don't
competitive
know of
market.
any current.
The only reason I ask is there's a bill that just came to Ways and Means. The legislation would move those generators from paying a utility property tax to paying the statewide property tax, and basically and there are all sorts of implications, many of which we couldn't get answers to today, but that might impact revenue to the towns, will certainly impact the education trust fund. The state will lose about $12 million from the education trust fund. And certain of the generators, and this language is a little murky as well, as far as I'm concerned, certain of the generators would get a 3-year exemption from paying the statewide property tax, statewide education property tax, which could have implications for the tax bills that you guys send out. And I was trying to explain today that it's all well and good, for people to say, well, fundamentally, there wouldn't be any change to municipal revenue. I said, well,
That becomes state revenue.
what
We already exempt for it though.
what most people look at when they get their tax bill is how much am I paying for schools? How much am I paying to the county? How much am I paying for SWEPT? And how much I paying to the town? And if this has a big impact on how much I'm paying to the schools, that's a consequence that needs to be examined. So for Canaan, I just wanted to, I'm assuming we don't have any generators, but maybe I'm wrong.
I do not know any.
But
We
the
do.
question is, does the person who's got a net credit when they have their
No.
meters, is that qualifying?
No,
as
we're talking about someone who is generating power,
Commercial generator.
a commercial power generator.
So if they sell it back to the power company.
If it's an individual, like if you put solar on your home and you've got net metering and you're selling it back to
Yeah,
your utility,
yeah.
that's not a commercial operation, that's an individual operation. If you are generating enough power to be selling it to 10 of your neighbors, that's a commercial operation.
The only
there's
one
two.
I know
So there'd be two that I can think of in the town of Cambridge. One would be right here and one would be Cardigan Mountain School.
But they're generating power just themselves.
I don't
of,
think
Cardigan
Cardigan's
Mountain, I think
selling.
it's all for their self, their own.
I believe they're selling some of it back. They got a pretty good solar field up there, in case anybody hasn't gone.
They've
by.
also got a pretty good demand for power.
Yeah,
Right.
they've got a
Maybe
huge,
they're not.
the field is huge.
Right.
My understanding, Wes, has been, the demand is,
Oh,
they're
okay,
using it
so
themselves.
this is the only one that I would know of then.
This one is the only one on power generation that I know of in town, is this solar.
Well, I guess the question, Chet, is, is there anyone who is currently paying the utility? This bill is likely to come up on the 10th to the full house.
Yeah.
And if I could find an answer, my inclination is to vote no on it anyway, because I think there are some questions that haven't been answered to my satisfaction. But the full house will vote on this bill on the 10th. The Ways and Means Committee passed it out today with 2 votes against it. I was one of them. And I'm writing the minority report. So I'd just like to know
I
from
don't-
my own town. I mean, I think it has an impact beyond just Canaan, but certainly I want to make sure I'm, representing.
Enfield has the Baltic Milk Hydro plant that Timmy Taylor's business has.
Well, I'm gonna leave that to David Frack. He's the representative.
Yeah, I'm just saying
So,
there.
yeah.
And Lebanon that I know of, they were running the old powerhouse mill was put back into power. But a lot of it was, we used to have when this Roberts lumber mill was here, that generated for the mill and went into the grid because they ran generation 24 hours a day. Hammond's did, but those outfits were all gone.
So that, I mean, what would be most likely are a major solar field that's commercially selling power or a hydro operation, a dam. And mainly what I'm looking for is if they're currently paying the utility property tax, then they'd be affected by this bill.
Okay, I'll see what I can find out. I'm not aware of any, but I'll check.
I know they get taxes dumped over there, cause you guys voted on it last year. I was here when you did it. At least at this one over here. Through that solar tax thing that the town voted on. I remember that,
You mean the
whatever
the
the
property
town,
tax, there was a, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't remember, I know if you put solar panels on your house, you got so much off your taxes. Whatever,
Yeah, you got a tax break.
right, I know that them guys got it, I remember. I remember you guys voting on it.
We voted on,
It was that tax break.
I'm trying to, what?
The exemption?
I don't, there was a warrant article, Wes, last year,
Right. that
there was a
went through.
warrant
But it
article,
was for personal, it
But it
was
was-
for,
but it was for personal, but it was
Yeah.
also townwide. I mean, it wouldn't have been a select board.
You
vote.
guys gave them a tax break. I know you did, I remember. Cause I only remember it cause I thought it was weird that they got one, cause I know they're selling. There's no way they have all them solar panels and they're only using it for themselves.
No, that was put in, that was moved there from another site.
what's the problem?
Cannon Street.
We granted Chris a solar exemption. I don't think it was on that field there, it was on.
I don't remember on that field, because it's commercial.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk back and forth on Chris, because she got their application in late first year.
Maybe it wasn't, maybe I misunderstood where it was. But I could have thought that it was over there.
Anyway, thanks, Chet.
Was there another question online or no? Probably not good.
Monica, no.
So you wanna show us the website?
Yeah, did you want to see the
Love to.
layout? So this is gonna be just the design and the layout. There's no contact information or content in it. I can get it tomorrow, I guess. So we'll have the same features as before. So we'll have this nice little bar that goes to all the pages.
There's still some decorating to do.
Yeah, we gotta decorate these little buttons. We'll have the latest news. So they'll, if we add on another one of these, we'll figure what they're called. We can have up to 6, and they'll actually scroll left and right. So we have plenty of information out there for the public. And then down here, we'll have the calendar. Very simple, everything from all the community events, etc., will all be here, one spot. And then on this side, we'll have the latest video of all the meetings, so it's easy, one click for people to find it. Instead of searching on YouTube, it'll be right there. That's it. That's the new, this was last Tuesday, this was finally completed.
Will the calendar get too confusing with community events and
It'll be,
town events and everything else?
we first designed it for 2 different things, for meetings and for community service, but the part was for us to keep toggling, you'd have to toggle back and forth, and it would be just too confusing. If it was on one, it was just. But we can't switch it to 2. We were just trying to make it easy
I
for
mean,
everybody.
let's be aware of it. See if we can change it, it becomes too confusing, but.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Or can you use?
Yeah, we could do that if you.
You color code between town event and community event even, so you're looking at 2 different. I mean, it basically so it becomes an overlay of calendars rather than.
Yes, yeah, so if they click on the, let's see if I can click on it.
What's the ETA on going live, Monica?
So right now, we have prepared to launch on May 26th right now.
Of 2028.
No, I've been trying to get this done fast.
Optimism.
It's been quite a bit of
Well, that's a
work
week
to
early.
get this.
Yeah.
Because it was June 1st.
Yeah,
A week early.
it's been a lot of work and we still have lots of training to, once this goes up, it's like a week's worth of training. So I'm thrilled. And, so yeah, so this is where we're at right now. So I think it looks good. The colors, look nice. We just gotta add a little bit of color to this, but.
Wes, you had something?
Yeah, so to get back to that job you posted. So does that mean once you post that job and you fill that job, you have no more part-time position?
Right.
What?
In, you know, about in highway?
Yeah,
Yes.
right. I was just curious if. The guy that's doing the part-time stuff, you let him know that, right?
I know Bob, we've been talking to Bob and Bob talking to him, yeah, he's basically down to not working that much right now, so, yeah, Bob has been handling that part of it.
Okay. I was just curious. I was just thinking about him because well, the stuff he did.
No, he's
Yeah,
been great, and actually, you know, he'd be a great substitute, we're not trying to get rid of him, it's just, we need to have the full-time position back, and
Yeah.
he's only working like 1 day a week, he has a limit as to what he can make a year, and he's been working with another group. So it's just, we're not seeing a lot of finish, is that you? Yeah.
Not all winter.
Just saying.
And then I have one more question. This has been bugging me since town meeting when I voted. So this bond article thing. At the bottom of it, I read that it wasn't gonna impact my taxes.
That's right.
How does it not impact? Did somebody give us $2.7 million?
Because it's being paid out of the current budget in the highway department.
Okay, so where does the rest of the $2.7 million come from?
It's an annual appropriation that you make to the reserve
So
fund.
it affects my taxes
But,
because,
okay,
But it's not gonna.
it's not an
change.
increase, it's the same it's the
so the
same
highway
dollar-
budget's not gonna go up.
No,
Well.
Never.
Not because.
No,
of
no,
that.
No, the highway budget's never gonna go up.
what we said was. if
But
you-
it doesn't matter what you said, because it's gonna, you have to
The bond will
appropriate.
be covered by the current appropriations in the highway department. for it.
Right, so every year you just appropriate more money to cover everything you need to do. It's still raising my taxes because of that bond money, because that money has to be there no matter what,
Okay, remember, what that's actually.
right? Am I wrong?
Because there's other expenses in the highway
No,
department.
no, no,
Just the
no,
highway-
answer
just
my
the road
question.
improvement.
I wanna know my question.
I'm gonna answer your question.
Okay,
Reality is, we went through the whole highway capital plan.
okay.
That's where all this money's coming from. Okay,
The
it's not,
highway capital plan.
if you go to the highway capital reserve plan, okay, we figured out, I think it's $480,000 a year or something we need to have in there just to survive repaving roads
Yeah,
every year.
yeah,
Okay, only adjusted by inflation,
yeah.
okay? That's where that's being paid from. So it's not an additional,
So,
it says there's no additional tax increase other than what's
okay,
going to the reserve fund.
Okay.
But the reality is, you were gonna put that money in there anyway, because you gotta take care of your roads.
right, but if you're paying the bond with it, how are you gonna have $400 and something thousand to take care of the roads when it was?
You want me to, I would
This is-
suggest you come in, I could show you on the plan, because it actually, you can do, it's almost 300,000 a year. Okay, and there's another couple 100,000 a year, and that continues to build. So we are so far behind, and we took the first 3 roads to do that, and then the paving every other year is still gonna happen on other roads. Okay,
Every other year.
right, the way it worked out was, I think we're doing, because the next one's, what's the one over by the school?
Blackwater.
Blackwater is like next on Benda, and that was in for 26, I believe, 27. And then we're gonna be doing another one. That's why we did the plan. We had to spread out that first grouping to get caught up, but we can still continue. to
But it
pave
still
roads.
raised my tax.
Not above the normal appropriation to the paving plan.
But it took $300,000 out of what you guys are doing, so now you
If you-
only have
But when
200, no, listen. So now you only have 200,000, and now you gotta wait 2 years before you can do something else. That doesn't,
okay, but here's the thing.
that doesn't
It
make
would've
sense to me.
Well, it should, because it would have taken 5 years to do this first project.
Okay, so it took 5 years to do
Then you're
it.
still going further behind, and you also can't get the work.
You're
done.
never
See,
gonna catch up.
Oh, well, we are.
How do you figure you're gonna catch up? Because by the
So,
time you
so
get done
Wes-
with this, by the
Wes-
time you get done through the town, you're
Wes-
going right back around and doing the same thing.
Wes, take Chad up on it and look at the spreadsheet, he can explain.
I
it to
can-
you.
I
It's
will-
very
I will
easy
show you how
to
it
see
works.
And watch it and figure it out.
I'll look at it, but it
As you
still
know-
raised my taxes.
Yeah,
No,
as
if
you
you-
know, Wes, road work is not do it today and it lasts
I
forever.
understand.
You have to decide on the lifespan
I
of
understand
those
that.
roads and come
And
around.
we'll see how Switch Road and River Road get paved if it's done the right way so it's gonna last the 10 years.
20.
Because if it's
The
not,
goal is 15 to 20.
if
so-
it's not done right, it ain't gonna last that
You're
long.
absolutely right. But what I want to say is, if you read the statement at the bottom that said it's not gonna raise, it says this will not increase or raise your property taxes above the already applied appropriation to the reserve fund. It does not say it's not
Right,
gonna raise your
instead of
taxes.
just how, I guess where I'm going with this, what really irritates me with this whole thing is I feel that you don't tell the people the truth. Whether you think it raises the taxes, it doesn't raise the taxes. That $2.7 million had to come from somewhere. So it is going to raise the taxes somehow, some way,
But not
across the
above,
board.
but it's not above. what
But
you
it's
were already
still
doing.
gonna raise the taxes.
But if you say that, then it looks like you're raising them twice, because we're doing the appropriation and we're doing the other. It's only gonna happen once. That is just the approval to borrow the money, the payments coming out from up here. So you're always gonna have that, every single year, you're gonna have that appropriation to go to that.
As long as it passes. What are you gonna do if that appropriation don't pass?
Well, this year we
Town will go
carried,
into default.
I'm just asking, what are you gonna do if it doesn't
that's
pass?
the case with everything, and the fact is. we
But
have
it's
the-
not the case with everything.
But no, it's actually in the budget. So unless they fail the budget, then you still got the default budget, you're still gonna be able
And
to cover
and
that.
that's the part we haven't,
How is it in the budget?
See,
Because I thought you had to vote on that warrant article,
Yeah,
put the money
Wesley.
in the pavement account.
correct,
anytime the town takes on any payment program, even when you go to a default budget, that's, if the town voted once to make those payments, that money has to be in even a default budget,
I
because
get
you
that.
have you have already signed to make those payments.
I get that, but you're saying, he's telling me it's coming out of the $400,000 pavement budget that the town's voting on every year. So if the town doesn't vote to appropriate that money, for some unknown reason, on that one warrant article,
It
We
won't
don't
be
have
a
to-
warrant
we don't
article
have to
after
put it in
this
as a
year.
warrant article, Wes. We don't have to put it, no.
so now you're not gonna put it on a warrant article, you're gonna force people to
That
pay
becomes
for it.
an
What happens
annual
is-
payment.
The goal is, and I need to think about it, when you think about that reserve fund, that's the pot of money, and we're putting 480,000 or whatever the number
Right.
is, okay? The goal is, and this is one thing we did it this year with the lease, where we had 220 or $30,000 going to the capital equipment budget. Okay, we actually changed it where we put 180 in the operations budget, which was making the payment, 169,000 in to make the payment for the lease, and put just the balance into the other part of the account. So it didn't affect us being able to pay it. So if we have to pay $250,000 for this, for the bond, and we're gonna put 480 out, we only put 230 up into the other account, and we keep it going. But the goal is, we're trying to keep the public's eye on the, whatever the appropriation is, that's gonna cover all the road stuff. That's the goal. Okay,
I understand that, but that's not how you explained it, you just said it ain't gonna raise the taxes.
above,
Theory,
above
it's
the
gonna,
appropriation.
it's still gonna raise the taxes. Taxes are
The
never
appropriation-
gonna go down.
The appropriation is going to raise the
Well, I never said
taxes,
the taxes
not
would
the.
go down.
Right, but it's also going to raise. People don't realize how much money this budget just raised the town. You guys got a lot of stuff ahead of you, because people are gonna squawk when a new tax bill comes
The
out.
only tax bill is gonna be 9.2%.
Yeah, and how many dollars a thousand is that?
It was 60 cents. Or 80 cents, 80 cents.
Really? Cause that's not what it said in all the stuff that was appropriated, if you added it all together.
Because there's duplication, because your appropriation is where it's being paid for, but the expense that you're creating is not an additional expense. It's not additional.
So all the warrant articles are a non-additional
No,
expense?
some were,
Some are, some aren't.
some are.
I
some-
added up like $50 a thousand, cause
No.
it said underneath $2 a thousand here, 50 cents a thousand here, $3 a thousand
If
here.
you- if
That-
you-
The books are up back.
Yeah, we'll come in, we'll go through it.
Okay, I'll get my book and I'll bring it in, cause I got it all highlighted.
On the back table.
I don't need it, I got one at home.
Okay.
No, that's fine, we're good.
Cause I just don't, the way I
It's gonna-
calculated it, it was like $20, $30 a thousand, it was
No.
going up just by the warrant articles
No,
that you guys put underneath. This is how much it's gonna affect your taxes. That was on the warrant article,
we'll talk about it.
I'm just saying.
Anything else? Thanks, Wes.
You're welcome.
I missed you. Motion to adjourn.
You wanna go into non-public for the real estate?
Okay, yeah. Motion to go non-public.
Yeah, yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. That one's, but leave that in that.
Are we good? Yeah.
Yeah.